Oh, that music can only mean one thing.
It means
It's
that
time.
We're on the air again.
We are.
Of the year.
We are. I'm barely on the air, guys. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to contribute today. I'm not feeling real well, so the Velvet Sledgehammer and the Velvet Voice are going to have to carry the show today.
Well, guess
Well,
what, guys?
we are all a part of Citizen Watch, and
Yes.
we welcome people to the January 7th edition of Citizen Watch from Studio C with Steve Colvard, Robert the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, and I'm Casey Steed from out of state in the global warming center here. We had record temperature lows out here, folks.
Are you
It's
cuddling?
Cold.
I know. You know, Casey, when I read about Oklahoma and that polar, there was a thing on the internet yesterday. My dad flew back from Chicago. Now, years ago, there was a big article in GQ magazine about not wearing socks. Okay, Casual Friday to an Italian in business is a T-shirt, a sport coat, and you wear loafers with no socks. So my dad has become a big proponent of not wearing socks. So I go to my dad. He decides to sell the house this summer and our home, his home actually. And anyways, he wants something smaller. He doesn't want to be a landlord. So he calls me up and he says, yeah, I'm in Vegas. And I go, okay, when'd you get there? And he goes, the 2nd of January. And I go, Dad, what clothes did you wear? And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, you weren't prepared for winter. He goes, gosh darn it, was it cold? And I go, don't tell me you're not wearing socks. He goes, nope. And I'm like, I'm laughing. And the reason I say that is because he's probably listening, Casey. Why?
Well, one reason is we need to let folks know that we are now on the internet. You can go to YouTube and put in Citizen Watch with Robert Tomasetti, or Citizen Watch with Steve Colvard, or Citizen Watch with Casey Steed, and you will be linked to our shows. You can also put in KYOS space 1480 AM, all one word, and that will also link you to our shows. And hopefully our web mistress is going to put up our current shows in very real time, so that folks, if they miss the live well, I guess we're not live, but if they miss the, we're on it, 9 to 9 on Thursday and Tuesday, and then 6 and 6 on Saturday. If they missed that, they can go to the internet and listen to it with them.
Let me tell you what happened. Sunday night, I usually do my laundry at the laundromat. I know I own a house, but I don't have a washer and dryer because my brother Peter, who lived with me, I mean, if it was up to him, he'd be wearing one pair of pants and one shirt every day, and he would wash them every day. And you know what that does to your PG&E bill. So I said, hell with it. I've got enough clothes, so I go to the laundromat. So I'm at the laundromat. My brother Vince texts me, and he goes, oh, what's this about the Velvet Sledgehammer? It sounds like a porn name. What kind of weird stuff are you into? And I go, what? So I told him, I said, we have a radio show. He said, well, what's it like? I said, well, why don't you go put in YouTube? He goes to YouTube. I put in Citizen Watch with Robert Tomasetti. I go, you do know how to spell Tomasetti, don't you? Oh, yeah. So anyways, my brother is just...
for the folks, just so they don't, just in case they don't know how to spell Tomasetti.
It's Tomasetti. And anyways, so my brother listens to the show, and he thought it was very good. So my brother Vince, he's got a heart of gold. My brother Vince goes, hey, do you guys need any help coming up with like subject matter? Yeah, Vin, what's your ideas? So I'm listening to my brother. But it's so cute. He thought it was funny. So what does he do? The next morning, when's your next show going to be on? And I'm like, really? You're looking forward to it? And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, I wish everybody would know that and everybody listen to us. But we do have one piece of information, Casey, that you need to share with the people, and that's our new email. And our
you told me it was...
we set it up.
What is it?
It's citizenwatchmerced, all word, one word, at yahoo.com. So anybody that's got any ideas, any feedback, you could call Casey on his private super secret line, his love line, or what you can do is you can go to citizenwatchmerced, all one word, at yahoo.com and give us your feedback. And we had some pretty good feedback, didn't we, Casey?
Yeah, we did. And just to give out that telephone tip line for those that may want to text or leave an anonymous call from a telephone payphone, it's 209 area code 406-8728. And we have gotten some really good tips out there from the citizens and our listeners, and I would encourage them to keep bringing it in. But as we've seen, we have no shortage of fodder from our local media.
No, but here's something. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Nicolas Cage, happy birthday, 50 years old. David Caruso, another Italian. Happy birthday, 58. Here's one that's stunning because I think she's cute. Katie Couric is 57. I would never think in my lifetime I would look at a 60-year-old and go, wow, she's good looking.
Yeah, have you seen her without makeup?
I don't look at that, Steve. I don't want to hear that.
Steve.
Yeah.
Seriously, man, makeup makes a huge difference.
You know who I saw that I used to love? I used to absolutely love her. When I saw her in Jerry Maguire was Renee Zellweger. Okay, and I just thought she was cute as a button, and I watched her in a couple of movies. And one day I saw ESPN or something, or not ESPN, AOL or TCM or one of them showed her without makeup, and she's got this fat little ruddy cheeks, and they're red, and she looks like an alcoholic.
Makeup is huge.
Oh, it's huge.
I remember I used to have a little.
You have makeup, Steve, and you look very handsome.
Well, you know, I'm on the radio. I don't have to worry about the way I look.
Katie Couric, you know, was one of the first women anchors. I think she took over after.
Come on.
Can't remember.
She was on TV.
Dan Rather, wasn't it?
No. Remember Katie Couric? It was what? Katie Couric and Matt Lauer took over the Today Show from Jane Pauley.
Today Show. That's right. They put her out.
I think it was the Today or Good Morning America. And then her husband, God bless his soul, at 43 years old, died of prostate cancer. She went.
Katie Couric's husband?
Katie Couric's husband died at an early age, and what she did, took some time off and came back, and she had her own show, and wasn't the same. You know, sometimes it's that dynamic. I think she's
supposed to be hosting like the Yahoo International News or something now, isn't she? Her talk show got canceled.
Whatever.
Yeah,
it's like us. So hopefully we're going to go to Yahoo.
One of the things she was talking about, I heard her on an interview not too long ago. She goes, "Do you know who does the CBS Evening News now?" And even I couldn't think of it because, as we know, news cycles are, well, people can just tune into news whenever they want. That was one of the exciting things about having our show on the internet is people can now listen to it at their leisure. Warren Buffett the other day.
He's listening?
He has Berkshire Hathaway, and for those of us that have a few shares of that, it's a very nice stock.
Whoa, stop.
Local newspapers. And I also attribute that to the local media. He says that local newspapers can shine in the delivery of local news.
Yes,
absolutely.
But why does he say that, Case?
Well, because he says people's readers' eyes will glaze over when you start talking about Pakistan or Canadian tariffs.
Exactly, but
if you make it about
what does he own?
You know, or real people or your neighbors, you'll read it or listen to the story until the end.
But what does he own? He's got a vested interest in newspapers surviving because he owns a big, huge share of the Washington Post.
He's putting his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, but here's the question I have. Casey said, now I'm going to tell you this. Casey said, for those of us that have a few shares, few is more than 3. Us means Casey. Casey, are you telling me you own 3 shares of Berkshire Hathaway at $98,000 a share?
Well, I wouldn't want to give away secrets here, but Warren did say that he holds a monopoly.
Hanging out with a rich dude. Didn't even know.
Not even know.
It's not a recipe for success, but it's a recipe for survival.
You know what I want to know?
I really we think that with our local paper, the Merced Sun-Star. I know they're struggling out there, but they have a place, and I really see a show like ours, like Citizen Watch, having that same place. So I really don't think we're going to go away. I know that some people say they don't listen to us.
They do.
I think they do.
Well,
I know they do.
But here's something you're absolutely correct, and that is true. And I'm going to tell you who wrote that first was Sam Walton for Walmart. Sam Walton said in his book Made in America that if you have a niche, if you have like for example, Walmart tries to be the everything for everybody, but the problem is they can't have the kind of business like George Parker has at Parker's Hardware here in Merced, where you go there and he's got everything, and his people tell you how to put it together, and he tells you that if you and that's what Berkshire Hathaway is doing, because Warren Buffett owns See's Candy, he owns Geico Insurance, he owns Gillette, a bunch of stuff. But what he's trying to say is that he's trying to prop up his newspapers because, anybody can go online and read the news, Yahoo News, ESPN, anything they want, but you're not going to get the Merced news, the Washington, D.C. news.
The Merced County news.
That's right, the local things. The local things that are happening on ground level, ground zero.
When you say Merced County News, though, Steve, you have 2 newspapers. You have the Oprah Winfrey, which is the John Whitaker Merced County Times, which takes pictures of...
Which I think also has its place.
Yes. And then you have the Merced Sun-Star, where if it bleeds, it reads.
Right.
Every time... I remember Justice Earl Warren used to say, and newspapers have formatted are different, but it used to be in a book format, where you started from page 1 and kept going 98 pages till you got to the end. Not folded in half in subsections. And when it was in that book-style format, Justice Earl Warren would say, I read the newspaper from the back page to the front. Now, the back page is what? Sports. He says if you read the back page, it highlights human achievement. If you read the front page, it highlights human error. So he would rather read about the achievements of people than the human error. I mean, he's a judge. He sees it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, one of the other things that I thought was interesting, we were talking about global warming. You guys have probably heard about this Arctic expedition that got stuck in the snow or in the ice pack and had to be
Antarctica?
rescued. They were headed to the Antarctic to see about the melting of the ice shelves. Unfortunately, they got stuck. Now, one of the things that was interesting, to offset their carbon footprint of this expedition before they left, they said they were going to plant 800 trees.
In Antarctica?
Now, in somewhere where the trees would grow.
Well, I was going to say.
But now, after this rescue with the Russian icebreaker, or the Chinese icebreaker and the Australian icebreaker, they got stuck. They're going to have to plant over 5,000 trees just to make up for their carbon footprint. So I thought that was kind of comical. What they started off to do really got them in a pickle there. So it'll be interesting to see if they plant all these trees.
I have a question.
Yes.
China has an icebreaker for what reason?
Well, they have a big reach, and where they travel, they run into
I
ice.
understand,
but their icebreaker couldn't make it either.
Right, but you look at countries, okay, like Great Britain and them that have northern reaches of their own empires. Okay, China ends in the China Sea, and I was there, and it never snowed. It never had any ice. So I'm just wondering, why does China have icebreakers? Kind of interesting.
China's a big little force. I don't know if you guys also heard in the news, but you probably heard we were in competition for the Boeing 777X program.
Yes.
That won't be coming to California.
Is that because of Mark Hendrickson?
No, it's not Mark Hendrickson, which we're going to give kudos to Mark in another segment. He really
Wait a minute, kudos for what? Did he go to Boeing and at least try to make a pitch? I mean, we're paying him 140 bones a year.
We made a pitch as a state, but the unions up in Seattle, Washington, realized what was happening. They saw the handwriting on the wall, because Boeing wasn't going to not be competitive with Airbus and some of these other government-subsidized manufacturers. So they went to the union and they said, look, we're going to get rid of pensions. You're going to go to a defined benefit, to a 401k.
Which is a defined contribution, Casey, my man.
That's right, defined contribution. Robert knows the terminology. The union, they had 24,000 union workers vote. It passed by 600. As you can see, there's a great division, but they kept the production up in Seattle. So, unfortunately, we lost it, but at least it's staying in America.
Yeah.
Well, it always will, and you're absolutely
that
right.
brings up another interesting subject, though, that
Sure.
I was recently enlightened on. I don't know if this is true or not, Robert. You might be able to speak to this, and we'll have to talk about it on the next segment,
Sure.
but I'll just kind of give you a little heads up on it. I was told that Caterpillar, either last year or the year before, made
they turn into butterflies.
they made a $46 billion profit.
Yeah.
And the unions went to the management and said, we'd like to share in that.
Yep.
We'd like to share in those profits. And the management told them to take a flying leap at the moon and gave it all back to the shareholders. So how do you, is that fair?
Well, you realize that Caterpillar's gone through some, they've gone through some tough times in the recession. I've been back to Peoria, Illinois, and I've toured the Caterpillar plant. I've also been to Lafayette, Indiana, which is their non-union division of Caterpillar. So Caterpillar is not just all union people. Realize when you hear the union say, we want the profit, that comes from Peoria, Illinois.
I think they were just saying they want to share the profit.
But here's the point. But here's the problem with it. I have a union. The union has negotiated with management a contract and how this is going to happen. We got a pension, we got a this, we got a that. Okay. Now all of a sudden Caterpillar gets off their duff, because my dad and I know, because Caterpillar was right outside of Chicago, and International Harvester too. And the problem is they fell on hard times years and years and years ago, and we're on slippery slope to bankruptcy. Now, when you look at some of these manufacturers, you say, okay, you had a union, you went ahead, you negotiated a contract with the union. Now, all of a sudden, lo and behold, there's a huge profit that just gets dumped on your front door for various different reasons. It could have been they divested of machinery somewhere and took the windfall or whatever. But the point of the matter is, we've already negotiated. Now, because we found profits, you want my profits? You want to come? You want me to come back and negotiate, and you want a part of that? Right. We already negotiated, dude.
But what if you're profitable and you just want to be more profitable at the expense of the union? I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
Okay, let's do it this way. I can give you all my profits, and next year we're broke, and the company gets gobbled up, and you lost your job. Or what we could do?
Same thing over at MIT. Yes.
Or what
we heard from certain board members that the wealth should be shared around, and yet we have management trying to make MIT viable in an uncertain economy.
Yes.
You can't take 1 or 2 years of good times. This is what the state of California is doing right now.
Absolutely.
We have a surplus. Let's spend it. And, Steve, let me give you an example about General Motors, government motors. The stockholders got screwed from GM. The government took care of the United Auto Workers ahead of the stockholders.
Yep.
The people of America lost $80 billion because of that move. Was that fair to the stockholders?
Well, that's the problem with corporations. Are they looking out for their? Look at Apple Computer.
There has to be a balance, though, doesn't there?
I know. I agree, Steve. I'm not.
But here's the point: what if people stop
down? It's just I heard a saying the other day: democracy is the worst system ever invented, except for all the others. So there is no perfect system, and you can look at companies that make a lot of profits and say, they should share the wealth. But how long are those companies going to be around?
But here's the point, too, real quickly. That's socialism versus democracy. A democracy in a capitalistic society says, make as much as you can. God bless you. The socialists sit there and say, but wait a minute. You're making gobs of money and you're living in this big, beautiful house and I'm not able to share. So why don't you share with me? And I'm like, you want that? Yeah. Go to Moscow.
But could you make the argument that they deserve to be shared with if they're an employee of the company who's been working their butt off to make the product, what it is?
Do you have a union? Do you have a union negotiating on your behalf?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying if the union is not negotiating what the people want, then they need to get rid of the union.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. But we're going to take our first break, people. You're listening to Citizen Watch with Casey Steed, Robert Tomasetti, and myself, Steve. We'll be right back right after this.
And then I'm going to complain that you're bringing us in. You know that.
do your work, Case.
Go.
All right.
Tell us when.
Are we back?
We're back.
What?
We're back with Citizen Watch on AM 1480 and now on the web. You can go to YouTube, put in KYOS 1480 AM, or you can put in Citizen Watch with Casey Steed, Citizen Watch with Robert Tomasetti, or Citizen Watch with Steve Colvard, any one of those three, and that'll bring you up to our shows, and you can listen to them at your leisure. And we also have a web address.
We do have a web address. What is that again?
Citizen Watch Merced, all one word. Citizen Watch Merced at yahoo.com.
Yep. Well,
okay, guys, you were saying, go ahead, Steve, you were saying that you got a text message about what?
Just there was a notification that there's going to be an interesting board meeting, a school board meeting, I think, tomorrow night at El Capitan High School Theater.
I find that interesting. Can I tell you why?
Well, absolutely.
Okay. I'm looking at page A7 on today's Sunstar, and it says, Merced Union High School District. Please mark your calendars for an exciting and dynamic discussion of the new way schools will receive state money. This local control funding formula needs parents and community involvement with how the money will be spent. And it will be at Thursday at 5 o'clock at Tenaya. And I'm going to tell you, I will be there. And one of the things I want to know is, this local control spending formula, does that have anything to do with giving the superintendent the power to take over money that was supposed to be earmarked for buses and for gymnasiums so that he can build a $98 million school? Now, here's the other thing. One of the gentlemen who approved the $98 million school, and he thinks it's a great idea, even though he's got to share half of it with UC Merced, is Tim O'Neill. And he wrote, Casey, a perspective in the Merced Sunstar. And I know you don't get it because you're in Oklahoma at the Polar Express.
Well, actually, I do read it.
Did you?
I read it online. I haven't read this one, but share with our listeners what it says.
It says school board should let the superintendent do his job. Now, first of all, There have been questions, people, as to what the superintendent's job is, who hires him, who fires him, who he's responsible to and for.
And what superintendent are we talking about here? Because don't we have 22?
buddy.
Don't we have 22 superintendents in Merced
but
County?
we're not talking about those. We're talking about one of 22. And you're right, we do have 22, but I'm talking
So
about
when you're trying to figure out what his responsibilities or her responsibility is, this applies to 22 different individuals in our county.
Yep. I'm not going to argue with that, Steve. I know you like that they have 22 superintendents making over 100 G's a year, and then we wonder why the schools are broke.
And why they want more taxes, and then why they want to float a bond.
Oh, because Scott Scambray, he doesn't need 190,000. He needs another 190 plus 6% because he thinks he's doing a great job. And if he's doing such a great job, this is exactly why the school board is stepping in, I think. If I'm a school board and I hire a superintendent and I don't like what he's doing, what am I going to do? I am going to
fire him.
Or what am I going to do? I'm going to curtail some of his tactics.
Responsibilities.
I'm going to curtail some of his responsibilities. I might even, fire him.
You're going to take some decision-making processes out of his hands.
And here's what's the problem. Tim O'Neill, I like you, Tim. He owns on Target online. What is it called? On what? I forgot. Is it One Target Marketing? They do the hats. Anyways, they do the hats and the logos and stuff. But anyways, Tim O'Neill has a nice little company over there, and he was on the school board of trustees. And I argued with him over and over and over again about the need for El Capitan High School. Now, folks, we're sharing El Capitan High School. This was such a need, pressing need. We got the whole second floor given, leased, sold to UC Merced so that the building can be what? Used. Now, UC Merced, why didn't they build the damn building? No, we needed to because it was what? It was a money grab. The building was supposed to be a $70 million high school.
Right.
$35 million from us, $35 million from the state, 70. No, it ballooned to $98 million. They put everything and anything in that high school that they could find. They didn't care about money. Why? Because Tim O'Neill left. He said, here's the template, goodbye.
Yeah.
So he leaves it to Scott Scambray. So Scott Scambray's scurrying around trying to find where he's going to find money for this, that, and this. So where does he find it?
For the gymnasiums?
He takes the Atwater Gymnasium money. Because you got to remember, folks, when you're sold a bond issue, there's a marketing concept behind it.
Right.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put this bond because we need 2 new high schools. We need a new bus depot. It's for the kids. And this is why Casey always complains about when he hears any vernacular from anybody saying it's about the kids. It's about the kids. Really? I had an old high school. What did I care? I just wanted to see my friends, take the class, and go home. I didn't care about my facility. I didn't sit there and look and say, wow, what beautiful architecture. No, I didn't do that. So Scott Scambray spent $98 million, and he took money from different areas so that he could do this, and it worked. But what's happening now is he's making some decisions that Mr. Honey, Mr. Spengler, and Mr. Snyder are saying, hey, wait a minute. We don't agree with this. So you got CTA, which is 2 of the school people, which is Ida Johnson and Dora Crane, saying, well, let the superintendent do his job. Well, the superintendent did his job, and he spent $98 million on a school that was only supposed to be slated at $70 million. Where did the $28 million come from? Well, gee, it comes from us, the taxpayers, because guess what? We got deep pockets. Okay, the money's endless. So Mr. Scambray goes and does this. So Mr. O'Neill says that the board is divided, that under the leadership of a sometimes divided board and Superintendent Scott Scambray. To me, that tells me that the board's not happy with Mr. Scambray's job.
3/5 of it are. 3/5.
3/5.
Right.
Okay, it says that the high schools are far around the state in training and implement. The teachers are far ahead of their peers around the state training and implementation of Common Core standards. I talked to 3 teachers at McSwain School, and you know what they told me, Case?
What?
What's Common Core? We don't know what it is. We have no idea how it's going to work. Nobody does. This is just some theory some kook or some guy or some people had. So I said, well, and I told the young ladies, and I'm going to withhold their names because I didn't get their approval to say them, but here's my point. I'm talking to 3 McSwain school teachers, and they made a great point, and they said, if we need to change the way that we teach children, where are they teaching them the best? Why don't we go over there and find out what template they use and use that because we know it works?
Massachusetts, I think.
Well, my brother Perry's probably ecstatic because his kids go to schools in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think they have the best public education system in the country.
And the problem is nobody goes to those schools and says, hey, what are you doing so we can use it as a template? No, we go over here and listen to some guy with an idea and go, that sounds wonderful. We're not training the kids.
That sounds wonderful. What about my pay raise this year?
Oh, yeah, we got to give you that, don't they?
Well, Well,
it also
speaking
says
of pay raise, we saw where, again, Merced was in the top 100.
Wait, Case, I wasn't done.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It says that Mr. Honey, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Spangler, Mr. O'Neill says, I don't understand how they think they have more insight to the day-to-day operations of the district and the superintendent. Well, let me tell you something. I'll bet you Mr. Honey, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Spangler wouldn't have given PG&E $489,000 over 10 years. Okay, somebody's not watching the store. And yes, if I'm a school board director and I know that my district superintendent gave $489,000 to PG&E and we don't even have an account to PG&E, and it was some guy over at, I believe it was Atwater High School, one of the maintenance guys fell into, holy cow, we're paying this. Now, how did your people that your CBO? What happened to Mr. Khan? Isn't he watching the store?
And the scary thing is, are we doing that in other areas too? I mean, are we paying people that don't exist or paying people for services they're not rendering?
Well, don't you think Mr. Honey, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Spangler are asking that same question?
I hope so. I mean, that's what they're there for.
So, Vinny, pay the piper, dude. You're over there making decisions, talking, and you're in the newspaper about how wonderful you're doing, but you forget to tell people that you paid a bill for 10 years that you didn't even have an account on to the tune of $500,000.
Yeah.
That head needs to roll on that one.
Yeah, but see, like you said, when you're tending a store where money is not an issue, what's $500,000? Not my money. Not my money.
No, I hope we're going to do something right with it. How about you start buying the kids in Atwater High School a gymnasium?
But that's the mentality, I think, of people that we put in charge of stewarding the taxpayer dollars, is they just don't give a crap.
You're right.
They just don't care.
No, they don't care because they don't have to worry about the revenue.
There's no accountability.
No, it's there and spend the money. Oh, I made a mistake. Yep. What?
No, and when we talk about Common Core, because they're implementing that in the next 2 years, Governor Brown has told the Department of Education we're not even going to test our students because we have no metric by which to test them to see a success based on Common Core. So
now that
the teachers are getting a pass for the next 2 years.
Of course.
They're going to want to raise.
Exactly, and that's the whole point that I have a problem with. And I love teachers, and they do a thankless job. But come on, people.
Good teachers are priceless.
Good teachers are priceless.
They're priceless.
You'll remember them for the rest of your life. At Elmwood Park High School.
They change lives.
Yes. At Elmwood Park High School, we had a history teacher to die for. We had Mrs. Schilf. She taught math. Mrs. Bamba. I still remember them 35 years later. They will always stay with you, your parents. But the problem that I have is we have stewardship like Mr. Scambray, who goes to old school board guys and says, hey, dude, they're not letting me do my job. We let you do your job. You overspent on high school by $28 million. How about if that money comes out of the Scambray account?
Hey, and just for the record, I don't know if you saw the paper recently, but they showed an aerial photograph of El Capitan High School.
Did you see that?
And I want a little bit more of a bend for a mill. I mean, you could barely tell that thing barely bends at all. We paid an extra $1 million for that.
Yeah.
I want at least a 90-degree angle in there or something, a 45.
But see, if they would have did that, they would have saved millions of dollars. But they had to bend that steel. I'm serious.
But look at the aerial photo. You could barely tell it's bent.
Now, the information that's going to be very interesting is Greg Spicer had called me because we railed on Dr. Walsh, and that's because she came out in the paper and we were telling about what she said. And Casey said, Dr. Walsh, please, we don't want you to love our children. We want you to teach our children. And somehow or another, it got misconstrued and somebody got offended, and I had to make the apologies, and I did. It didn't go over real well. But Greg's, you know me, I love you, bud.
What did we talk, Robert? We said, please, people, come on in. Dr. Walsh, Susan, you're welcome any time on Citizen Watch. We'll clear the calendar for you. But I
don't think they want me in the room because I don't like to give you an opportunity to espouse your virtues when there is overwhelming situational material to show that your philosophies are not working and they take it personally. Okay, so Greg Spicer had called me up because you remember in the newspaper, folks, they wanted $40 to $65 million. Okay, Then they came back and said, we're going to float a bond for $130 million. We need $125 to $135 million to fix the schools. And when I went down to the schools, Mrs. Weimer said, oh, no, the problem is well over $300 million. And she told me that a school that is only 19 years old, Crookshank, which is over 20 years old, needs $10.5 million of renovations. Now, my question is, are the renovations needed? Are they wish lists, or do they really need to be taken care of? And if they do, then why aren't we holding the builders responsible, or who designed these flaws? How come they're not being fixed at the point of at
the expense of the contractor?
Well, like example, Atwater Freeway. Did you see the nice big pileup of dirt?
It's
about at the same phase as the Bradley overpass.
I've almost come to the conclusion that Bradley overpass is never going to.
It's like the big dig in Boston, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Well, one thing when Robert talks about $10 million or $300 million, realize when that goes to the property owners, the taxpayers, to pay off, it's double.
Could be longer. Because it's double now because they went to a 25-year. But some of these bond issues, folks, have gone 40 years, which means you're paying triple. Because you got to remember, you owe the principal plus you owe the interest over 40 years. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, and so, what starts out is, well, it's kind of like when you buy your house. How much did you really buy your house for, Casey? I spent $155,000 for my house. By the time you figure principal, interest, and everything, that's a $350,000 house. But nobody ever says that.
No, absolutely.
They always tell you what the asking or selling price is.
And one of the things we see in the state government now is they are going to raise, I've always told you, they're going to come after your property, folks. People don't realize your vehicle, the car you drive, what you're listening to Citizen Watch in right now is personal property. They want to raise the vehicle license fee 1%. It's going to generate $4 to $5 billion a year.
Yeah.
Where do you think they're going to use that money for?
Well,
they're not going to use it to fix roads.
But see, that's the problem, Casey, that I have. If you ask me for 1% more to fix roads, and you fix roads, I'll give you the 1%. If you tell me that I need 2% because I got to do this and this and this, and you do it, I will do that. But when you're like Scambray and you push this bond issue, or Tim O'Neill and you push a bond issue and you tell people I'm going to give you 2 new gymnasiums, I'm going to give you a bus barn, people buy into that, and then you divert the money and it's like, well, we had to. And you're like, I got sold a bad bill of goods. And that's exactly when people get their pie chart from DMV in your report, you see how much money goes to welfare. Welfare from your fees. I mean, California is fee happy so that they can fund all of the giveaways.
Death by 1,000 cuts. And, like I said, as far, this is one place where I really identify with the Tea Party, taxed enough already. People don't give this government another red dime until you start getting some accountability for what they already have. I mean, it's that simple. No more, don't vote any more tax measures in, don't vote any more bond floats. Just say no.
And
enough
you know what?
Is enough.
And you know what? I have done this, and I apologize, and Casey brought it to my attention, and he's absolutely correct. Some of the Board of Supervisors, some of the city councilmen, some of the mayors, they're my friends. Okay, I know them through the Italo Lodge. We've grown fond of each other, and I give them way too much leeway here on Citizen Watch. You're not doing your job, people. You need to take care of us. Merced is cool. Merced can be cool again. Why don't we? And when I mean cool, I think it's a nice place to live. Mr. Kamanger, Dr. Kamanger thought it was a nice place to live to pony up how many millions of dollars for the old theater.
Yeah.
People,
over $1 million.
Exactly. And people think it's a great place to live. Look at Elmer Lorenzi. This man has a lot of money. He could go anywhere else in the world to go live, but he stays in Merced. He calls it home. He likes it. Yep. We can change it for the better.
Casey, it's time to take another commercial, man. You want to take us into the break?
Why Casey? Huh? Why do you always do that?
You want to take us into the break?
No.
Okay, Casey.
He's got the voice.
Well, everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back for our final segment of the Tuesday edition of Citizen Watch. Stand by.
We're back.
Are we back from Citizen Watch here? Is it our final segment,
What are you,
Steve?
poltergeist? We're back.
What, we got about 10 minutes left?
Yep.
We're ready for Casey's 100.
But Casey, you were going to make a point earlier that when Robert was talking about something else about we made another list, didn't we?
Well, we made another list, and folks, it's not a good one again. And again, we saw Merced in the news, a national survey put out by some realtors. We're the 88th most dangerous city in America.
That's 88. And that's not 10. Top 10.
Well, no, it isn't. Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, some of our other major cities in California didn't make it. Compton, Stockton, some of the less desirable places did. And unfortunately, Merced was lumped into that. And, of course, that's because of our high murder rate. Last year we had 29 murders in the county. I call it the Planada killing fields. We had the Winton massacre. These are some of the things that concern me. These are some of the things that people, realtors, look at when they try to bring business and people to the area. You always hear about quality of life issues, schools and things. And I just wanted to tie that to there's some good things that we're doing. We saw in the news in regard to that. I saw we have a new sheriff in town, Tom Cavallero.
Yo,
He's
Tom.
doing things a little bit different. He's committing more resources to gangs and that type of problem, which we have out in Planada.
Case, real quick. Don't you see a difference in Mark? And here's what I look at. Administrators, okay? Administrators. They always want to take over and say, well, we'll allot this. Tom's an actual on-the-street kind of guy.
Right.
Okay, and you see that Tom has an on-the-street kind of mentality. Let's go after gangs. Let's go after this. Let's go after that. They're starting to shake down the panhandlers. I don't like Mr.
Well, now that's the city of Merced, and I was going to give kudos to Norm and the troops over there. As far as I know, they haven't hired anybody else. I think they've just gone out there with a new ordinance and a new philosophy and trying to clean up this city. And hopefully we won't be 88
but they're doing,
very long.
But here's the question, too. Are they doing things just to make it look like they're doing something? Like, for example, when you and I were at that city council meeting, Greg Diaz, the city attorney, said there's nothing we can do on the underpasses and overpasses and the exits of the highways. So they asked that there's a specific problem by Highway 59, and he says you can't touch 59 because that's a highway and that's highway patrol. But yet in a newspaper, I see Tom Trinidad, the new captain, going out there, and I think he just wanted to get his name in the paper, and he's talking to a homeless guy about how it's no longer going to be appropriate for him. Well, wait a minute. You're on the highway underpass or overpass or exit, so that's a highway patrol issue. What the hell are you doing over there talking to the guy about what's right and wrong? Why don't you go to something that you actually have enforcement code over and go take care of that? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and hopefully they will. And I think you're right on the division line there between Caltrans, CHP, and 16th Street, which, again, any little thing. I remember talking to Kevin Blake when he was running, and he said that when he would drive by over there, the medians, he would chase them away, and it really wasn't the sheriff's duty, but it does take a village in this regard to get these things under control.
Right. But
Casey,
Kevin Blake is a sheriff.
Right.
Tom Trinidad is a city captain. So the city is going out in the county or out on the fringes where it's actually highway patrol area. It's highway patrol jurisdiction. And he's trying to tell the people what to do. And to me, I think that was just a real nice, let's take a picture. Look what we're doing. Now, if they follow through with it, I'll be happy as a lark. But if they don't, that's just another photo op for Tom Trinidad. You see what I'm saying?
I understand, and we've been hard on the city, and I've seen them make moves this way out of the UP estates. I was watching, speaking of YouTube, folks, if you ever want to watch the city council meetings on YouTube, those are very interesting. And the one just prior to Christmas, Monica Villa, who ran for city council member, was up there saying, don't kick us out of our homes. It's Christmas. We have a place to live. Well, guess what? It's after Christmas. It's the start of a new year. And I think the city council has made resolutions, along with Bramble and Diaz, I hope, to get this situation resolved out there at UP Estates.
True.
And this median issue is just another offshoot of that.
Have they figured out how they're going to resolve this issue?
I think it's going to have to be through county code enforcement, through health department issues, things like that, because unfortunately we have a private landowner who has his priorities not...
Nah. I saw him at coffee about a week ago, and he said, help me. I'm serious. And I looked at him and I go, because I wondered how...
Go ahead.
I wondered how serious he was, because I had heard from other people that he wants to give them, the homeless people, a place to go. The problem is he doesn't pay attention to the liability and all that. Now, we have insurance, and he probably has insurance, and the land's not being used for anything that he needs, so I can understand that. But when I saw him for coffee 2 times in a row, he said, help me with it. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So I don't know where he's at on that.
Yeah. Well, I know this is the whole problem here. Nobody's going to set up an overnight camp. And we already have day centers, and we have places for these people to go. It's going to take the willpower and the intestinal fortitude to enforce the laws we have. And I hope there's a willingness on the city's part and the county's part, because when we hear that Merced is the 88th most violent place to live in America, there's 2 supervisors that represent the city of Merced, the most violent, 88th most violent place in America. Now, they certainly can't be excited about this or hold this up as an accomplishment.
Case,
but yet they ask for a raise.
But Case, that's not county, that's city.
I know, but you represent.
No, Casey,
supervisor.
I'm being facetious. Remember with Walmart, and I asked how come.
Yeah.
Okay, and what did I hear from the supervisors? That's city, that's not county.
Yeah, but I happened to talk to some county supervisors that said that they were very supportive of the Walmart Center.
Well,
I was told that
I don't think you could have been supportive enough, and look what happened.
Right.
So.
Okay, anyways, let me do this real quick.
Yeah, let's finish
we're always doing the negative. Merced's number 80. Let's spin that. Out of 8, we're 88 out of 100. That means we're the 12th from the bottom.
We have some bright spots out there.
True. So let's talk about one. Saturday, Casey and I usually get together, folks, before a show, a couple of nights before a show, and we'll go to McDonald's, and we get the free Wi-Fi, and we look up things, and we get nice food. The other day, Casey wasn't there, and I decided I'd go somewhere else, and I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I was surprised. I went to the one on Olive Avenue. I'm always at the one down the street from my house on Highway 59 South. But I went there. It was spotless.
Nice.
And the people were in the back laughing and having a good time. And I had this very nice young lady by the name of Brittany. And she's African-American, wonderful personality, great smile. So she starts talking to me about jobs. And so I went on a limb and I told her a couple of things we talked about. And here's a girl that's working at a minimum wage job that agrees with us that one, minimum wage is minimum wage, not a living wage. And you're not going to raise a family of 7, okay, on a minimum wage job. If you have a problem with that, go back to school. That's her point. And I looked at her and I was stunned. So I said, you know what? I like this. So I had ordered. They didn't have dinner rolls. It was kind of late. So she gave me a free piece of chicken. And I was like, really? Here was a girl. Okay, $8 an hour, thinking outside of the box, customer service. I give her kudos, and her supervisor.
Kudos to Brittany over there.
Brittany at KFC. Brittany and Vanessa
/ A&W, right?
/ A&W.
Yep.
But I mean, it was just awesome.
I think one thing Robert mentioned. I don't mean to interrupt.
You do.
Parker's Hardware, another great George Parker. He's been around the community
He's leaving.
forever. I remember my father.
George is leaving.
His first lawnmower at George Parker's Hardware. He came out personally and adjusted. It was an old reel cut mower.
George Parker is super.
People don't know what those are, and they're very, very temperamental. And you know,
sure.
That guy still gives personal service, and he is one of the jewels in Merced.
He is, but the problem with George is he's tired and he's going to retire. Case. I heard that by the summertime.
Is he staying in the community?
He's staying in the community, but Parker's Hardware will probably be no more. It is a wonderful place, and I'll tell you
Parker's Hardware is a legend here.
I'll tell you another great place that I went to yesterday, and Jim Passadori had a discussion with me.
He doesn't have any sons that could take over the
Passadori?
Parker?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'll ask him when he comes to
Parker
lunch.
Hardware.
I know, but here's one that's amazing was Passadori's. Go to Passadori's to go buy some product for the Italo Lodge tonight. We're having a men's guest night. And Jim was having a discussion with a person about a washing machine. And the person was talking about water use. So Jim said, and I'm listening over here, and I'm waiting. And Jim said they should outlaw top-loading washing machines. And they should go with a front loader. Because a front loader uses 20 gallons less than a top loader.
Is that right?
And I looked at him and I go, is your numbers right? And he goes, hey, don't quote me, which I did. He said, but it's pretty close. He said, Robert, he goes, yeah, if you buy a front, well, you know, we're all talking about water. Leads me to Pebble Beach. I'm at Pebble Beach and I'm going to the bathroom and I'm at a urinal at the Monterey Hotel. And it has a waterless urinal. And it says it saves that urinal in that hotel. Those urinals save, because they're waterless, 40,000 gallons of water a year. So I'm like, you know what I want to know? Did V. Scott Scambray do that at El Capitan High School? I mean, you know, that might be something kudos. He went green.
Our urinals are made of marble.
But let's thank KFC.
Yes.
Let's thank Parker's Hardware for all the years that they've been in service for
Passadori's.
us. And Passadori's, which is pushing 90 years.
And there's another legend. I mean, those guys.
Steve and Jim.
Yep.
They're diametrically different, but they're still both great guys. Yep. One's very quiet and one's very
great
outgoing.
additions to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And those.
If you could shop there, go.
Those are the gentlemen's.
And you want chicken, go see Brittany.
Those are gentlemen's words who carry weight.
Yeah, Case.
You know, just one thing that Robert mentioned about minimum wage. I don't know if folks looked at the news, but the Seattle-Tacoma area, highest minimum wage in the country, just went into effect yesterday, $15 an hour.
Yeah, but you also see that the SeaTac workers are not entitled to that because they're actually under the Seattle Port Authority. So everybody in that town is going to be making $15 an hour.
By unions.
Yep. Everybody's gonna be making $15 except the people that work at SeaTac, and that's what generates all the revenue.
But okay, now, but wait a minute, real quick. Let's just bounce this back. You look at Seattle. Seattle is a booming of business.
Booming.
They're a booming.
Seattle is a booming right now.
And so what's happening? Well, look at North Dakota. $16 an hour for a McDonald's worker.
Yep.
Hey,
That's
people,
right.
you can't get a job here? Head to North Carolina, North Dakota.
And I think that's a concept that people that run our community has to realize. It's not about getting people in and out of the buildings or capacity. It's about creating an environment.
Yes.
Where we can economically support.
You want to do business with them?
Yes, absolutely.
That's why we do the kudos. Hey, I need a part for my range, the heating element blue.
Yep.
I go to Parker's or I go to Pasadores. If I want chicken, I go see Brittany.
There you go. Take us home, Case. We're out of time.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for listening to Citizen Watch. Again, we're on YouTube, 1480 or KYOS 1480 AM. The other things we gave, we have the email address, of course, our tip line 406-8728. You know, my grandfather had the heart of a lion and a lifetime ban from the zoo. And with that, we say, Robert,
where do you get such corny jokes? Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.